This is Jordan Hale. You're tuned in to 99.3 FM, the last frequency. If you're still out there, if this signal is reaching you, you're not alone. The storm hasn't taken all of us. Not yet. It's just past 2 a.m. here, though time's starting to feel like an old memory. The sky's black as coal outside the station window, and the wind hasn't stopped since sunset. It doesn't howl anymore. It groans, deep, long, like something buried miles beneath the soil is waking up and stretching its arms. The glass is shaking in the frame. Again. We've lost power 4 times tonight, running on backup batteries now. The station's generator coughed itself to death about 30 minutes ago, and I don't have the parts to bring it back. If the batteries die, this broadcast ends. If it cuts out mid-sentence, you'll know why. I don't know how many of you are left out there with working radios, but if you're hearing this, hold on. You're one of the last lights on the map. The storm front came in fast, no buildup, no warning like we usually get. 1 minute there was humidity, some thunder out west, and then the sky cracked open like it was splitting in two. We counted 37 tornadoes before midnight. 37. That's not a number anyone was ready to hear. They touched down across Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee, like dominoes falling in every direction at once. There was a man on the wire from a station near Tulsa. Said he'd been chasing storms for 20 years. Then he went quiet. The last thing we heard from him was, "This isn't weather. This is something else." Then it was just wind and screaming and nothing. I want to share a message I just got from a family in Springfield. A young girl, maybe 10 or 11, scribbled it in crayon and slipped it into a box of canned goods they sent with a courier heading north. The message just says, "Dear world, we're scared but still okay. Our house is gone, but our hearts are not. Love, Lacey." That's all. Just that. That box is here beside me now. I don't know if her family made it out, but her words did. And that's something. We've got reports of towns being erased, not hit, not damaged, erased. There's nothing left in some places but slabs of foundation and pieces of rebar sticking out like ribs. Joplin's gone quiet. Power grid across the Midwest is toast. Most mobile towers are out. The Weather Service lost radar coverage hours ago. Satellites are still up for now, but they're just showing black swirl after black swirl. Layers of it, stacked like some slow, angry creature crawling across the continent. They're saying this thing isn't done. It's shifting, twisting toward the northeast now. That puts parts of Illinois, Indiana, maybe even Ohio in the path. And then what? We don't know. We don't know anything. Somebody called in from a Walmart parking lot in southern Missouri. Said people were sheltering in the freezer aisle. Not much left of the roof, but they're making do. Said they've pushed shelves in front of the doors. Said there's a man standing outside with a sign that reads, "No one left but me." They don't know who he is. He won't come in. Another message came through on the shortwave a little while ago. Came from a church in rural Arkansas. Pastor said they packed everyone into the basement, but the storm peeled the building away like paper. Left the bell tower standing. Everything else was gone. They're still in that basement. No food, no medicine. Just a generator running on fumes and the sound of children trying not to cry. I can't tell you what's going to happen next. I don't think anyone can. But I can tell you this. This station's still here. I'm still here. And if you're hearing this, it means you are too. We've got static on half the channels. The government's been quiet. FEMA issued a shelter-in-place order, but no one knows where to shelter. That's the cruel part. They tell people to stay safe, but all the safe places have blown away. Someone sent me a voicemail, one of those satellite units still hanging on. It was a woman in Jefferson City. Her voice was calm, too calm. She said, "If anyone hears this, my kids are in the crawl space. I'm outside. The sky isn't moving right. It's standing still. It's just watching us. If you're anywhere near the path of the storm, do not go to sleep. Do not lie down thinking it's over. Tornadoes are still dropping, still touching down in places they've never touched before. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, even southern Ontario. I know how that sounds, but I'm reading the reports as they come through. These aren't rumors. These are cries for help. We've lost contact with the National Weather Service completely. Their last update came in 3 hours ago, just said, radar offline. Mayday. Rotation increasing. Then silence. I can't stop thinking about what one of the last storm chasers said before their signal died. He said, "It's not rotating like a normal funnel. It's not moving like a tornado should. It's pulsing. Pulsing. Like a heartbeat. Like the sky itself is alive. We don't have much in the way of supplies here. A few canned beans, a bottle of water, some crackers. I'm rationing what's left. I'm staying here as long as I can. Until the batteries run out. Until my voice cracks. Until the windows blow in. Or until I stop hearing you." I'm reading another message now. This one's scratched into a piece of drywall. Came in on a rescue drone from Joplin, Missouri. It just says, "If you find this, my name is Eli. I'm in the bathtub. Please tell my mom I was brave." If you're out there, if you're hiding in a crawl space or a ditch or an old school gym, if your hands are bleeding from clawing at debris, if your phone died an hour ago and you haven't heard another voice since, know this. I hear you. I see you. We haven't given up. You haven't either. Not yet. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. Stay with me. I'll continue broadcasting as long as I can. I'll read what I receive. I'll pass on the names. I'll say the words that still need to be said. Hold on. Please, just hold on. The wind hasn't let up. I moved into the supply closet during the last surge, thought the station was coming apart at the seams. I could hear nails groaning in the walls, like the whole building was being peeled upward. I waited in the dark with the mic live. Maybe you heard me breathing. Maybe you heard nothing but static. We're still on. For now. The station's thermometer says it's dropped nearly 30 degrees in the last 5 hours. The air smells burnt, wet asphalt, pine, and something else. Metallic. Like the inside of a torn-up vending machine. That smell's been creeping in all night. I keep thinking about the people out there with no walls, no roofs, just sky. I got a call from someone in Sedalia. Young voice. He said he and his brother had climbed into a storm drain when the sirens failed. Said they waited in the dark while the sky screamed. Said it sounded like train tracks breaking, like metal being twisted in someone's hands. He said, "I think the ground jumped." That's what stuck with me. The ground jumped. That's not something a kid should ever have to say. The line dropped before I could get his name. There's a message still coming through from a public school in Conway. They've rigged a backup generator to power their radio. Teachers and students locked in the basement, all night. They've got no food left, just bags of rice and bottled water from the gym. The principal's been reading books out loud just to keep them calm. They're using the school's intercom to let them know when it's safe to leave the restrooms. One of the kids wrote a note on the back of a detention slip. It reads, "I don't want to die without seeing my dog again." The The storms aren't moving the way they used to. I've been watching old maps and current tracks side by side. These systems used to follow rules. Warm meets cold, air rises, rotation forms. We understood it, at least a little. Now it's like they're crawling across the country, hunting, not drifting. The eye of the storm, the big one, was last seen over St. Louis. I don't know what's left of the city. There were at least 5 funnels on the ground there at the same time. We had a signal from a hospital in the city's west end. Their roof came off. They were moving patients into hallways and closets, anywhere without windows. Then nothing. Just nothing. I got a text an hour ago from someone claiming to be at a St. Louis gas station. Said the only light left in the city is fire. Gas lines ruptured, flames bouncing in the wind. They said, the whole skyline is bending, like it's trying to get away. There's no way to know what's true anymore. No images, no streams, just voices, just wind. In the silence between calls, I can hear sirens from far away. So far, they almost sound like music. But there's no rescue coming. Not here, not now. The warning systems are failing. NOAA's emergency bands went quiet one by one. Weather radios are looping the same broken messages over and over, like a ghost trapped in the static. There's one that keeps repeating the phrase, rotate in place, but nobody knows what it means. Maybe it's a glitch. Maybe it's not. There are whole counties that no longer show up on satellite. They're not just dark, they're gone. Like someone scraped them off the surface. We received a package here. No postage, no note. Just a Polaroid stuffed into a torn envelope. It shows an empty living room. Couches turned over, books scattered across the floor, a television cracked in half. There's a little girl in the photo, standing in the middle of the room. Her eyes are closed. Her arms are wrapped around a teddy bear. And in the corner of the picture, the window's gone. The sky is inside the house. I don't know who sent it. Maybe it's a warning. Maybe it's a goodbye. To the man who radioed in from his roof with a flare, if you're still listening, I heard your message. I heard you say, you're the last one left on your block. I heard you name the people who didn't make it. You weren't shouting. You weren't crying. You were just listing. Like reading a phone book of ghosts. I'm still with you. And if you keep talking, I'll keep listening. If anyone near Nashville can still hear this, there are reports of a large funnel heading northeast along the river path. They're saying it's wider than the interstate, and it's not slowing down. Take shelter now, whatever that means where you are. You don't need a siren to tell you it's coming. The sky turns green. The air goes still. Your skin feels like it's crawling. That's all you need to know. Someone's been sending out short-range signals from near Memphis. They're bouncing off the towers that are still standing. The voice is faint, always the same. Just says, "We are down to 14 survivors. No medicine. Tornado still circling." I've tried to reply. No answer. Just that message, over and over, like a heartbeat. There's a word for this kind of silence. I don't know what it is, but I feel it pressing against the glass. I can hear the roof creak with every gust. I taped blankets over the windows to keep the light in. The power grid's gone, but sometimes there are flashes in the distance. Lightning without thunder. Just white bursts in the dark, then gone. They said the second pulse is forming behind this one. A new front. A worse one. If that's true, I don't know how many of us are going to be here when it hits. I've been thinking about something my mother used to say when I was a kid, whenever storms would roll in. She'd sit by the window with her tea, no lights on, just the sound of the wind. And she'd say, "Sometimes the sky screams, so the earth remembers who's boss." I think the earth is listening now. I think it's remembering. If you're hearing this, stay low. Stay quiet. Stay warm. If you've got a candle, light it. Not just for the heat. Light it so you know you're still here. You're not alone. Not as long as this frequency holds. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency, and I'll be back, if I can. It's just after 4 in the morning. Or maybe later, hard to tell. The clocks here are freezing 1 minute, then leaping forward like they're trying to outrun the night. Maybe they're tired too. Maybe they know something we don't. We're getting scattered reports now from northern Arkansas. A fire department that's been turned into a shelter. Not because anyone told them to, but because there was nowhere else to go. They're out of fuel. No more ambulances. No more trucks. Just a few men and women left handing out crackers and taping flashlights to the wall so kids don't have to sit in the dark. One of them used to be a paramedic. She's been doing checkups in a janitor's closet using a stethoscope she found under rubble. Someone sent a message through their shortwave. It said, "We're holding the line. If you hear this, we haven't quit." That message played 3 times. Then the station went silent. I don't know if the line gave out, or if they finally did. The wind here is still crawling across the windows. Every gust sounds like it's got a voice. Not words exactly. More like sighs, moans. The building breathes with it. In, out, groaning like something old and tired trying to stay standing. I feel that in my bones tonight. A trucker came through over emergency CB a little while ago. Said he was driving north on a back road near the Ozarks when the sky turned black and the road vanished. Not underwater, just vanished. Said the paint lines faded like someone poured ink across them. He said he kept going, didn't know what else to do. He's got a flatbed full of bottled water. Last thing he said was, "Tell whoever's left I'm heading toward the river. I'll leave the truck running." If you're near the Missouri-Arkansas border and you find a running truck with pallets in the back, that man left it for you. I don't know his name. I don't know if he made it, but the truck's out there. Another report came in from a campfire crew west of Little Rock. They've set up tents in an empty field. Said the trees are too dangerous. Said branches are like blades in this wind. One woman said she can still hear her neighbor's wind chimes ringing even though the house is gone. Just the frame left, and those chimes, spinning and singing like nothing changed. I've got chills, not from the cold, from the quiet that follows that kind of story. People are trying to send messages any way they can. A boy near Paducah wrote a note in permanent marker on his arm before they took shelter in a sewer tunnel. It read, "My name is Toby. If you find me, I like dinosaurs and orange soda." A rescue team spotted him later when they went through the tunnel. Said his handwriting was shaky but readable. They pulled his whole family out. They're okay. Toby, if you're listening, someone found your message. It worked. Sometimes a message is all we have left. I've been staring at the blinking red light on the console. It blinks whether anyone is listening or not. Doesn't care if I'm alone. Doesn't care if I'm tired. It just blinks. And maybe that's enough. Something steady in a world that's not. I've started taping up old letters and pages people have sent in. The walls here are covered in them. Little scraps of human noise. One is written in pencil on the back of a church bulletin. It says, "There's a dog out here that keeps bringing blankets to the kids. We don't know where she came from, but she won't leave. We named her Mercy." If you're in the shelter near Branson and you're hearing this, give Mercy a scratch behind the ears from all of us. Someone in southern Illinois managed to get a signal out on a fishing radio. Said their whole town's dark, but they've lit flares in the field behind the grain elevator. Said if you see the red flare, it means still breathing. If it's green, it means bring help. No flares means nothing left. I don't know what color's burning out there right now. And then there's this piece of drywall sitting in my lap, found by a Red Cross volunteer digging through what's left of a collapsed home outside Columbia. A message etched into it by a child. You've probably heard it already, but I'll read it again. For them, for you, for whoever's still got ears to hear. If you find this, my name is Eli. I'm in the bathtub. Please tell my mom I was brave. I say it out loud, not to make us cry, but to remind us. There are names under the rubble, lives, and they mattered, still do. The rain's coming in sideways now. I put a bowl under the leak in the ceiling. Can't do much more than that. Every time it fills, I dump it in the sink and set it back out like I'm bailing out a boat. And maybe that's what this station is. A boat, adrift in a sea of wind and static, still floating for now. If you're just tuning in, you haven't missed much, just the sound of a country trying not to disappear. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. I don't have sponsors. I don't have commercials. All I have is time. And I'll spend it talking until you stop hearing me. If you got candles, don't burn them all at once. Save the light. The nights are longer now. If your battery's low, shut everything off but the radio. This voice might not be much, but it's still one more sound that isn't wind. There are people near Memphis, dozens, sheltering in what used to be a church. The roof's gone, walls barely standing. But they're singing. I heard the signal faint through a relay out of Jackson. It wasn't a song I recognized, but it didn't matter. It was voices, rising together in the dark. That sound traveled through 5 downed counties, through dead air and broken towers, just to get here, and I caught it. So now I'm sending it to you. You're not alone. The lights flickered again, then went out. Again. I'm running on backup cells now. Batteries pulled from every flashlight, smoke alarm, and busted remote I could find in this place. It's a tangle of wires on the floor behind me. The hum from the transmitter's lower than it used to be, like it's whispering instead of shouting. But whispering still counts, still matters. If you're hearing this, I haven't gone quiet. Not yet. A man radioed in from the edge of Nashville, his voice trembling like he was trying to hold something back. He said there was a Walgreens with its doors blown off. Nothing inside except empty shelves, cracked tiles, and a single generator still humming behind the pharmacy counter. He used it to charge his radio for 3 minutes. Just enough time to say, "I'm okay. My sister isn't. Tell her I tried." He didn't leave his name, but his words are here now. They're not gone. I got a ping from a crew west of Paducah. They've dug out part of an old bowling alley and turned it into a shelter. There's no power, no plumbing, but the lanes are smooth and the roof held. They're sleeping in the gutters, cooking on propane stoves and keeping score in chalk. One of them said they draw stars on the ceiling to remind themselves the sky is still up there, even if they can't see it. Someone else there found a camera in the rubble. Old digital thing with a cracked screen. The last photo on it was of a little boy standing in front of a birthday cake, candles lit, his hands in the air like he'd just told a joke. The file name read DSC_1127_hope.jpg. Hope, that's all. That word showed up again in another message I got from a woman living out of her truck near the Arkansas border. She's been picking up lost dogs, 6 of them now. She feeds them with cans from abandoned vending machines and rainwater she catches in a tarp. She said, "Every time I find a dog still wagging its tail, I remember that hope isn't gone. It just got quieter." God, that line hit me. Hope isn't gone. It just got quieter. Like the wind paused long enough to let her say that out loud. There's a man in Kansas City broadcasting on a handheld ham rig from what he calls Tower 5. It's not a real tower, it's a water tank, but it stands tall, and for now, it still has a view. He's been keeping track of the storm cells. Says the second wave, the pulse they warned us about, is forming behind the first. It's worse, he said. It's like something learned from the first wave and decided to come back smarter. I don't know what that means. I'm not a meteorologist. I'm just a man with a mic. But I believe him. I believe anyone who's still talking. Because that means they're still here. I got another message. This one scratched into the side of a propane tank outside a diner in southern Illinois. Someone used a screwdriver to carve the words, "If this tank explodes, it means I was still trying." I don't know who wrote it, but that's the kind of bravery we don't put in history books. That's survival without ceremony. I heard from a teenager in Oklahoma City. She's been taking care of her 2 younger brothers since their parents were lost in the first touchdown. She told me she reads them old Harry Potter books by flashlight. They pretend the thunder is dragons and the tornadoes are just magic spells gone wrong. She said, "If we believe it's not real, we don't have to be scared." She's 15. Her brothers are 5 and 7. That's the kind of strength I didn't know existed. People are leaving notes on everything now. Street signs, broken cars, gas pumps. It's like we've all turned the world into one big bulletin board. A woman from Memphis told me she wrote a goodbye letter to her daughter on the back of a cereal box and tied it to the leg of a bird. I asked if she ever saw the bird fly off. She said no. She was too busy helping a stranger climb out from under a collapsed porch. That kind of choice. It leaves a mark. Outside my window right now, I can see pieces of metal spinning across the parking lot. Shingles, mail, something that looks like a mattress folded in half like a sandwich. And somewhere out there, somewhere under all this night, people are still lighting matches, still whispering to each other, still trying to keep the dark from swallowing the rest. There are no weather updates, no relief trucks, no FEMA tents on the horizon, just voices, just noise trying not to die. And still, here we are. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. You're not hearing an echo. You're hearing a man holding on. Don't let go. Not yet. The wind's starting to sound different, not louder, just stranger, like it's pulling things apart that used to make sense. Roofs, wires, thoughts. I walked down the hallway a little while ago to check the back door. It's jammed shut from debris on the other side. The doorknob is bent. I didn't know that could happen. There's dirt inside the walls now, real dirt, caked in through the air vents. There's a crack in the concrete near the control panel. It runs across the floor like something is trying to draw a line through the room. I'm not scared exactly, not the way I was earlier. It's something else now, like a quiet ache that sits in the chest and doesn't leave. I got a message tonight from a father in Columbia, Missouri. He said his daughter was born during the storm. They were sheltering in a laundromat when it hit. Said the windows shattered around them and the machines kept spinning, even without power. Said his wife screamed through the wind and rain and blood, and that when the baby cried for the first time, it was louder than the storm itself. He said they named her Sky. That name's gonna stay with me. Someone scrawled a message on a church wall in Tupelo. Don't ring the bell, it draws the wind. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I keep thinking about what it means, that we're starting to believe the storm listens, that maybe it chooses. That's how long this has gone on. Long enough for people to give the sky a mind, a will. Reports from the Midwest say entire towns have vanished from aerial footage. No lights, no structures, nothing but brown smears and scattered shadows. They're calling them ghost counties now. Some used to hold 5,000 people, some more. One man from central Kansas said he walked 23 miles after the tornado skipped his house, but took every other building on the street. He walked with nothing but a flashlight and an old baseball glove he found in a ditch. Said he doesn't know why he picked it up. Just couldn't stand the thought of something that once meant joy being buried under dust. Said, the glove still fits. I heard from a woman sheltering in a grain silo near Springfield. She's got 5 strangers in there with her. They take turns telling stories to pass the time, each person sharing something they've never told anyone else. She said it's like peeling layers off grief, one truth at a time. Said when the wind gets too loud, they just hold hands and wait. They've got a battery radio, so if you're listening in that silo, I hear you. I'm with you. Someone else radioed in from what used to be the outskirts of Nashville. He said he climbed into a billboard frame and strapped himself in using old seatbelts. Watched the funnels crawl across the earth below him. Said it looked like the land was trying to breathe, but forgot how. I don't know how he's still alive. He ended his message with 3 words, still here. Still. There's a kind of courage in just continuing. No plan, no exit, just staying upright when the sky wants you flat. I've heard nothing from Chicago in the last 6 hours, Detroit either. The silence is thick, not just dead air, more like everything got swallowed. A voice came through briefly from a man on Lake Michigan. Said he took a rowboat out onto the water to get away from the sirens. Said he could see lightning strike both shores at the same time. Said he drifted for 2 hours and saw a light on one of the distant docks. Then it blinked out. No more follow-ups after that. Just his first message, still playing in loops on the repeater. Water's cold, wind's loud, still alive. Still alive. If that's all you've got to say tonight, it's enough. There's a boy in Tennessee who's been writing weather reports in chalk on the side of his uncle's barn. He draws little tornadoes next to each day's message. Big ones when they get close, little ones when they pass far. He adds smiley faces for days when the sun comes out, just one so far. I hope he gets to draw more. Somebody wrote in about their grandmother who used to chase tornadoes for fun. She'd load up an old van, bring a camera, drive straight toward the funnels just to feel alive. She used to say, "There's beauty in things that don't ask for forgiveness." I wonder what she'd say about this storm. This thing that doesn't ask, doesn't warn, just takes. I'm not reading numbers anymore. They don't feel real. I get bulletins, death tolls, estimates, graphs, but all I can think about is a photo I saw tacked to a wall in a flooded gas station. A family sitting on the back of a truck, everyone grinning, one shoe missing from the kid in the middle. That's what we lost. Not digits, not stats. People, memories, laughter that'll never echo again. This storm is the kind of thing people don't write about because they don't survive it. But we're still here. You and me. We're proof. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. If you're breathing, if you're listening, keep the candle lit. I'll talk again soon. The wind hasn't stopped. It's like a voice now, not yelling, just always there, talking to itself in every crack of every wall. Some nights I think it's saying names, maybe ours. I stepped outside earlier, only for a minute. I had to push the door open with my shoulder. Debris was piled waist-high against it, splintered wood, a coil of torn-up siding, a mangled stop sign bent in half like tinfoil. The sky was darker than any night I remember, black without depth, no stars, no breaks, just a roof that never ends. In the distance, flashes, not like lightning, more like flickers, something electrical, shorting out again and again, or flares, maybe someone trying to be seen. If you're sending up light, I see you. I don't know where you are, but you're not invisible. Earlier tonight, I got a message from someone in southern Kentucky. A boy, maybe 10 or 11, hiding in a grain truck with his grandfather. He said they parked on top of a hill to avoid flooding, but now the hill's eroding. They can hear the soil sliding. They can feel it moving under the tires. The boy said, "We're staying inside because Grandpa says the truck is the last strong thing we've got." That line's been bouncing around in my head all night. The last strong thing. What is it for you? A wall? A radio? A photograph? We're all clinging to something. There was a voice coming from a cave system in northern Alabama. A ranger station sent in the coordinates before their power cut out. Families down there, whole families, generators humming like insects, kids playing with empty soda cans, rolling them between sleeping bags. They call it the Hollow. There's a boy who walks around reading from a comic book like it's the Bible. They let him. Because stories, even fake ones, remind us what it felt like to be whole. Someone found a journal inside a washed-up truck in Memphis, just a few pages that didn't dissolve in the rain. The last entry said, "If you read this, plant something for me when it's all over." Anything, just something that grows. I will if I ever see green again. There are voices still bouncing across this country. They're getting harder to catch, but they're out there. I heard a transmission from a group outside Topeka. They're holed up in a library. They said they've turned stacks of books into windbreaks, built walls out of fiction and non-fiction alike. Someone even rigged a PA system from an old stereo, and every night they read out loud. Not the news, just stories. They said, if we're going to wait out the end of the world, we're going to do it with a little imagination. Another voice came in from a man who walked 80 miles after losing his town. Said he hadn't eaten in 2 days. He'd been drinking rain from potholes and talking to his shadow to stay sane. When someone finally picked him up, he looked them in the eye and said, "Don't say sorry. Say, let's keep walking." He's not wrong. There's a school gym outside Tulsa that's still standing. Somehow, nobody knows why, it should have folded like a tent. But it didn't. Now it's sheltering nearly 60 people. They call it the Ark, One of the teachers there used to be a theater director. Every night, she makes the kids put on tiny plays with flashlights and puppets cut from cereal boxes. No one laughs much, but they watch. They sit still and they watch. That's what hope looks like now. A few people have asked how I'm holding up. I don't have a good answer. The walls here sweat when the pressure drops. The roof creaks in ways that make my stomach turn. I ration batteries like gold. I talk to myself more than I should. I keep a piece of wood near the mic, just a bit of floorboard from the house I grew up in. Saved it when they tore the place down. I don't even know why I kept it. Maybe because it's the last thing that still smells like home. To the couple in Pennsylvania who called in sobbing, I heard you. You said the sirens woke you up and there was no time. That your house vanished while you were brushing your teeth. That you found shelter under a highway overpass and you've been too scared to move since. You said you forgot your dog. You said his name was Diesel. If someone near Allentown finds a brindle pit bull with a blue collar, he belongs to them, and they miss him more than words can hold. We're not made for this kind of loss. We're not built to catalog it, tally it, file it away like paperwork. These aren't just updates. They're pieces of lives, torn pages still fluttering through the air, trying to land somewhere soft. The second pulse is still forming. The cloud wall stretches past Missouri now. They say it might double back, might sweep east again like a pendulum. If you're anywhere between St. Louis and Columbus, don't assume it's over. Don't look at the sky and think silence means safety. Sometimes silence is just the breath before the next scream. I keep thinking about a message we got last night. A man carving signals into tree bark near Paducah. Triangle for shelter, X for danger, a spiral for we moved on. That's become the new language out there. Shapes, smoke, scratches, because words get lost in the wind, but symbols last. So draw them. Leave signs. Leave something for the next person, even if it's just a trail of bottle caps or a message scrawled on the back of an envelope. Anything that says, I was here. I survived. You can too. You are not a whisper. You're a drumbeat. You're the reason this frequency still pulses, even when everything else fades. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. Keep your head low. Keep your heart steady. I'm still here, and I'll keep talking. They're calling this the week the wind never stopped. I believe them. It's been 7 days since the first touchdown near Dodge City. 7 days of sirens, of radio silence, of names lost and not found again. 7 days where no one has asked what day it is, because that's not how we measure time anymore. We count it in generators, in gallons, in batteries and candles, and voices that still answer back. The storm hasn't passed. It's just pulled itself apart, stretched like chewing gum over the spine of the country. Thin, but strong enough to rip. Someone out of Indianapolis sent a signal in Morse code. The message repeated twice before the feed dropped. It said, "We are under the floor. Basement is holding, water rising. Please send word, not help." Not help, just word. People aren't asking for rescue anymore. They're asking not to be forgotten. I read a note earlier. It came folded into a torn backpack delivered by a supply runner headed west. The handwriting was shaky, but it said, "Don't send hope. Just send proof we still exist." That's what this is. This broadcast. Proof. I had to move the transmitter again today. Too much water in the back room. The ceiling started dripping in 3 places at once, and I wasn't about to gamble the last power supply on a few cracked tiles. So I set up in the front hallway, right by the old vending machine. It doesn't work anymore, but I like sitting near it. It reminds me of rest stops on road trips, of being a kid, riding in the back seat with a bag of chips and a cherry soda. Somewhere safe, somewhere small. Tonight, I heard from a man just outside Columbia, South Carolina. He's a janitor. Said he stayed behind after everyone else ran from the school, boarded up the cafeteria windows, moved the desks into a circle, then waited. Now there are 12 people living there with him. No running water, 1 radio, 3 cans of tomato paste. He said they use paper plates to write prayers. He didn't say why, just that it helps them eat without feeling hungry. A voice out of Michigan said the lakes are flooding, said the water's moving in strange ways, sideways, uphill. Said he watched a dock float down his street like a ship leaving port. He said, "I think the water is trying to leave us behind." That line stuck with me. Maybe the land is trying to get away from the storm too. Maybe we all are. I heard from a woman in Mississippi. She's been living in a hair salon for 5 days. She pushed chairs against the walls and laid towels over the mirrors so she wouldn't have to see herself when the sirens go off. She sleeps in the shampoo station with a dog she found outside the door, covered in mud, tail wagging. She named him Clipper. She said, "It's easier to be brave when something breathes beside you." That's the kind of bravery that doesn't come with medals, just scratch marks on the tile and a heartbeat next to yours. In Amarillo, they're carving messages into barnwood, posting them on fences like road signs. Most of them just say, "Still here," or "Room inside." One said, "We have 2 blankets, a battery lantern, and soup. If you're not sick or cruel, come in." That's the bar now. Not sick, not cruel, just alive and kind enough to sit near. I don't have any news on Washington. Not since the last pulse bent the satellite feeds. Someone said the White House lights went dark yesterday. Someone else said it was just a glitch. Either way, nobody's answering on the old federal frequencies. It's just us now, the ones with radios, the ones with wires strung through cracks in the wall, the ones who speak into cans and static and wait to hear something human. I got a whisper of signal from a man standing on top of an old movie theater outside Des Moines. He said he's playing music through the speakers, even though no one can hear it. Said he just wants to believe the world might be dancing somewhere. His last line before the feed cut was, "If there's music, there's rhythm. And if there's rhythm, we're not gone yet." He's right. To the girl in Nebraska who said she misses soccer more than anything, I hope you find a field. I hope you kick something through the air that isn't broken. I hope someone cheers. And to the nurse in Dayton who hasn't slept in 3 days, treating strangers with a flashlight taped to her head, your message came through. Barely, but it did. You're not alone. I said your name out loud just now off mic, so someone would hear it. The power flickered again. This mic has been running hot. The boards are warm. There's a kind of hum in the floor I don't remember hearing before, like the earth is charging something. I don't know what's coming next, but I know what's behind us, and that's enough reason to keep talking. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. I'll speak until I can't. You speak back however you can. We are not gone. I haven't seen the sun in 2 days. Not really. Just a dull gray behind clouds too thick to break. The kind of light that doesn't warm your skin or cast shadows. Just hovers like a question no one can answer. People used to say sunlight was the start of everything, but now it feels more like a rumor we're trying to remember. There was a call earlier from someone in southern Indiana, a man sitting in his truck at the edge of a washed-out road. He said the bridge was gone, but he could still see the other side. Said the air smelled like rubber and smoke. He said, "I can't get there, but I can wave." And then he laughed. Not a loud laugh, just a tired one, like it was the last one he had. I think about how many people are waving at each other across canyons now. Roads missing, power lines down. Just a whole country full of people trying to say, "I'm still here," and hoping someone sees it. I got a message from a child's handwriting, crayon on the back of a takeout menu. It came through a courier who walked 3 towns with a shopping cart full of letters taped shut with duct tape. This one said, "We sleep in the elevator now. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's safe. I think the wind can't find us in there." I hope you're right. I heard from an old man out near Omaha. Said he hasn't left his porch since the storm took half his roof. He rigged an umbrella into the corner and nailed a frying pan to the door to stop it from slamming in the gusts. Said he just sits out there with a cup of coffee he doesn't heat up anymore, watching the clouds. He said, "My wife used to love a good storm. She'd dance in the driveway, arms wide, like she could spin it away. I just sit here and tell the wind she was better than it." That one almost knocked the breath out of me. Someone in Georgia has been broadcasting through a church bell, ringing it at dusk and dawn to let people nearby know they're still alive. They call it the heartbeat. Said they don't even pray in the church anymore, just rest there and leave the doors open in case someone needs to walk in. If you hear a bell out there, it's not a warning. It's a whisper. We haven't given up. There's a strip mall turned shelter out in Oklahoma City. No roof left, just a skeleton of lights and twisted metal. But inside, someone set up tents between the old storefronts. One tent has a sign made from a pizza box that says, "Quiet corner for scared kids." Another has a cardboard menu of whatever they can cook, mostly rice, dried beans, whatever's been salvaged. A teenager there plays guitar on a busted amp that works just long enough to squeal between chords. He doesn't know any songs, just strums. That's enough. People are building their own worlds again. Not pretty ones. Not the kind that come with soft blankets and cable TV, but the kind made from scrap and sound and stubborn hands that won't stop picking up nails. I got a call from a woman in Arkansas who's been collecting wedding photos from the wreckage. She posts them on telephone poles and tree trunks with notes that say, "Do you know these people?" She's found 6 couples so far. 3 are still alive. One wrote back. The note read, "You found our best day. We forgot what we looked like before this. Thank you." That's what kindness is now. Not grand. Just reminders. Just memory brought back to the surface for a second, so someone can breathe a little easier. A man near Cleveland said he started building cairns, stone markers, to track his journey across fields where signs are gone. He stacks rocks 3 high for safe paths, 2 for danger, 4 for shelter. He said if you see a spiral scratched into the top, that means I stayed there. You can too. Leave your markers. Leave your signs. Not all maps are made of paper. Tonight, I watched the storm front ripple over the western ridge. Lightning without pattern. Wind that came in waves, then stopped completely, then screamed again. There's no rhythm anymore. Just a sky that's forgotten how to breathe right. But beneath it all, the ground is still holding. The radio's still humming, and people are still writing. still calling, still trying. I read a note from a girl in northern Florida. She's been alone for 3 days. Said she turned an old school bus into her shelter, parked it under an overpass. She hung Christmas lights in the windows to keep the dark from getting too heavy. They run off a car battery. She said, I talk to the seats like they're my friends. Sometimes they answer. I don't think she's crazy. I think she's doing what she has to. A woman in West Virginia called in to say she started giving names to the trees outside her cabin. Said she calls the tallest one Marge. Said it helps to say good night to something, even if it's not someone. That's how we keep going. We name things. We pretend the world is listening. Because sometimes it is. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM. The last frequency. If you're naming the trees, if you're talking to the sky, if you're leaving notes in shopping carts or whispering your story to the wind, you're still here, and so am I. Somewhere out there tonight, a field full of solar lights is still glowing. Someone set them up across a hillside near Louisville. A message came in about it. Said they were arranged in rows, like stars had fallen and landed gently in the grass. No power grid, no wires, just cheap garden lights, the kind you'd see lining a driveway back when driveways still mattered. The woman who set them up said she did it for her husband. He used to walk that hill in the evenings. She said the light helps her remember the shape of him, the path he always took. She hasn't seen him since the second day of the storm, but the lights are still there. I think we forget sometimes how quiet the world can get when everything else breaks. Not just the silence of no voices, the silence of no clocks ticking, no faucets dripping, no TVs humming through walls. The kind of quiet that wraps around you like a blanket that's just a little too heavy. I got a message from a man in Minnesota. He said he dug a small trench outside his house and filled it with candles. Called it his line of last light. He lights them at dusk and sits on the porch, staring out past them into the trees. He said it helps him remember where the world stops and where he begins. Someone else carved a message into the side of an old payphone. If the wind takes me, I was listening to this station. I don't know what to do with that, except keep going. A girl named Rhea, out near Topeka, left a note on her front door before evacuating. It said, "We left the kettle on in case someone makes it inside. Water should still be warm." The storm took the roof off, but someone else found that kettle a day later. The note was still taped beside it. They left their own underneath. We drank. Thank you. That's the only trade we have left. Shelter. Words. Little pieces of mercy passed back and forth. Someone's been painting arrows on highway signs with fluorescent paint. One direction says, "No help this way." The other says, "Heard a voice here." No coordinates, no names, just instinct and trust. If you see an arrow glowing in the rain, follow it, or don't. But know that someone cared enough to point. Earlier tonight, I got a call from an elderly woman outside Tulsa. Her voice was thin, like she was speaking through gauze. She said she was alone, that her cats had been hiding under the couch since the roof blew off. She said she didn't have much left, just a wind-up flashlight, a can of soup, and a wedding ring she keeps in her pocket. Said her husband passed 2 years ago, but she still talks to him when the thunder gets too loud. She ended the call with, "You can stop talking now, dear." I just needed a voice to walk with me to sleep. That one got to me. I didn't say anything after that, Just left the mic open for a minute. Let the air carry something soft. A man out of Birmingham has been sleeping in a shipping container with his dog. He built a little shelf inside with cans of beans and instant coffee. He wrote, "Do not disturb, survivor at rest," on the outside in black marker. He keeps the radio on low at night and says it helps the dreams stay human. I hope this sound reaches him again tonight. There's a group near Dayton who built a working windmill out of scrap. No joke. They found parts in old barns and garages, bolted it together with rusted bolts and torn up bike frames. Now they've got just enough juice to charge walkie-talkies, a couple of phones, and an old cassette deck that plays gospel hymns. They said they don't know who's listening, just that they're not done singing yet. Every so often, I get a ping from a plane that never landed, a cargo flight that's been circling somewhere over the Midwest. The pilot sends out short bursts of audio, never long, just status reports, altitude checks, a list of coordinates. He doesn't speak often, but when he does, it always ends with, "Still airborne, still trying." I don't know how much longer he can stay up there, but he hasn't stopped yet, and that counts for something. Someone wrote a note on a cracked window in Detroit, just their breath on the glass and a finger dragged through the fog. Still breathing. That's the kind of signal that matters now. Not a beacon. Just proof. If you're breathing tonight, if you're listening, I want you to know I can feel it. This frequency might not be much, but it carries more than sound. It carries weight and warmth and something like a promise. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. We're not finished. We're not past the worst, but we're not buried either. And if you're out there, writing on windows, walking toward windmills, lighting candles in the grass, I'm with you. I'll keep the mic on. The wind changed direction. That might not sound like much, but when the wind's been hitting the same wall for 6 nights straight, and suddenly it shifts, it feels like the sky just turned its head to look somewhere else, or maybe to look right at you. I've been watching the clouds from the stairwell window. The ones moving faster aren't the ones that worry me. It's the slow ones, the ones that crawl. They hang low, almost scraping rooftops like they're dragging fingers across them. That's where the funnels start. Not from the clouds that roar, but from the ones that whisper. I got word from a family in Des Moines sheltering inside a gymnasium. Half the roof gone. They've stacked gym mats in the corners to keep the cold out. A boy there, maybe 9 years old, used a Sharpie to draw constellations on the wall above their sleeping bags. He said, "If the stars can't come out, I'll make them myself." That's how we survive now. We create what we can't see. A man in Amarillo scrawled a message on the wall of a public restroom. If this is the last mirror I ever look in, I want to see something kind. He wasn't talking about himself. There's a woman broadcasting faintly on Channel 7 from the edge of Cleveland. She calls herself Violet. She doesn't read updates, doesn't report conditions. She just plays a piano near her radio and lets it echo through the airwaves. It's out of tune. Some keys don't work, but the sound carries anyway. Sometimes I just stop talking and listen to her. We've been hearing fragments from what used to be the outskirts of Chicago. One repeated signal. Zone 4 breached. Falling back. Then static. That message has looped for 12 hours. No updates. No voices. Just that one line. It's starting to feel like the cities are closing in on themselves. Like the storm is folding the country inward. Places that once pulsed with people are dimming, block by block, room by room. But not all of them. A shelter in northern Ohio has been using grocery carts to move supplies through wreckage. They rigged the wheels with rubber bands to keep them quiet. They use chalk to mark each route. If a cart goes out and doesn't return, they don't erase the path. They leave it there, a memory, not a mistake. One of their kids wrote on the wall with red crayon, "We are not gone. We are just further away than usual." I heard that, loud and clear. A girl out of Kansas City has been writing poetry on napkins she finds in broken diners. She leaves them on countertops with rocks to hold them down. Someone gathered them and sent a few here. I'm holding one now. The edges are soggy, but the ink held. It reads, "Even if the sky forgets my name, I will write it in the dust again." I don't know her, but I hope she knows her words made it. There was another voice tonight, weak, distant. A boy, maybe 7 or 8. He was whispering into a toy walkie-talkie, repeating the phrase, "Can anyone see the roof?" over and over. We don't know where he was. The signal vanished before we could trace it. But that voice, it cut through everything. I say this a lot, but it keeps being true. If you're out there, if you're scared, if you're buried or stuck or waiting or walking, this signal is for you. You're not forgotten. Not here. A man in Atlanta turned the inside of his storage unit into a makeshift radio booth. He's been interviewing survivors who pass through, recording their stories with a camcorder that only works when plugged into a car battery. He's archiving them onto DVDs and sliding them under the storage unit's metal door at night. He calls it the vault. Says if the wind takes him, the stories won't go with him. That's what matters now, what we leave behind when the signal goes out. I read another message scratched into the side of a refrigerator outside a collapsed house in Tennessee. It says, "We saved who we could. If you find this, the medicine's in the cabinet behind the stove. We couldn't wait." That's not a note of fear. That's a note of love. Tonight I can hear the wind rattling every pipe in the station. I've sealed off most of the back rooms, just keeping the front 2 warm. I've stacked books against the doors. I don't know if they'll stop anything, but they make me feel like I've done something. Sometimes that's all you need. Something to feel like you still matter in your own space. I don't know if we'll have power tomorrow. I don't know if the towers holding this signal will keep standing. But right now, this moment, the static hasn't won, and that's enough to keep the mic hot. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. If you're still out there, even if you're just a flicker on the edge of the storm, keep burning. The rain started again. Not like before. This is heavier, slower. Every drop hits like a drumbeat on the roof. It sounds like footsteps above me. I know it's just water. But tonight, everything sounds closer than it should. I haven't slept in 2 days. Every time I close my eyes, I hear something outside. Something scraping. Something moving past the windows. Probably tree limbs or the wind dragging metal across the parking lot. But I still get up and check. I still want to be sure. Someone left a message at the base of a radio tower in Kentucky. They etched it into a metal panel with the tip of a car key. It says, "This tower stayed standing. So did I." Sometimes that's all the story we get. I heard from a man in a boat near Baton Rouge. He's been rowing between flooded neighborhoods, pulling people out of second floors and attics. He tied a mirror to a stick and uses it to check for movement behind closed doors. Says he hasn't seen dry land in a day. But he keeps going. keeps calling out. He ended his last transmission with, "Tell the ones up north we're still floating." They are. For now. The storm's shifting again, pushing toward the lakes, cold air slamming down from the plains, chasing the tail end of the second pulse. I got word from someone in Milwaukee who said the sky looks like it's folding in on itself. Said it turned the lake into a mirror for 5 minutes straight. Flat, silent, reflecting clouds that weren't moving. Then the wind came back. A voice came through from a woman sheltering with her kids in the basement of a movie rental store. She's been playing old VHS tapes on a battery-powered screen. Says her daughter rewinds the same cartoon over and over because it has one line that makes her laugh. The line is, "Sometimes even the smallest acorn makes the loudest thump." That's what they fall asleep to. I think about that line every time I sit down in front of this mic. Just me and the static. Hoping someone, somewhere, still hears the thump. People have been reporting strange cloud patterns near Pittsburgh. Circular movements, no visible funnels, just slow rotation like a giant wheel overhead. Some say the wind there sounds like voices. Some say it sings. I don't know if that's real, but I believe them. A man in a fire station outside Columbus said they're using ladders to bridge broken roads, building walkways between collapsed buildings so people can keep moving without stepping into the open. He said, "We've stopped calling them survivors. We just call them walkers, because that's what they're doing. One foot in front of the other. No plan, just motion. If you're one of them, if you're walking without a map, without a reason, this broadcast is yours. I'll keep filling the silence until you find another voice, or until mine gives out. I got a scrap of newspaper from someone in Alabama. It's been folded so many times the ink is fading. But on it, in pen, someone wrote, 'If you find this, write your name below.' 14 names so far. One of them just says, 'Baby James, 9 months, still breathing.' We write names to remember, even when we don't know if we'll get to say them again." A teacher in North Dakota turned a school bus into a rolling classroom. She has 7 kids with her. They drive during the day and park at night. She writes math problems on the inside of the windows with her finger, wipes them clean when the storm fogs the glass. She said, "If they keep learning, they won't forget how to hope." I don't know how she finds the strength, but she does. And I'm here to remind you that strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like small hands solving a problem in the back of a shaking bus. The static's been worse tonight, harder to fight through. I keep having to retune every few minutes, chasing the cleanest frequency. It's like swimming upstream in the dark. But I'm still here. And I'm still talking. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. If the storm is louder than your thoughts, if your hands are tired, if your feet hurt from walking and your eyes are dry from staring too long at nothing, just stay with me. You're not finished, not yet. Something's changed in the air. I can't describe it exactly. It's heavier, but not just because of the humidity. The kind of weight that settles in your chest before your mind even catches up. You feel it first in your breathing, like the air doesn't want to go in clean anymore. I've been watching the trees lean harder with every gust. It's not a full storm surge yet, but the signs are there. The old ones, low clouds with no texture, wind without direction, birds flying in strange loops before vanishing. That always comes first. I haven't seen a bird in 2 hours. Someone called in from the remains of a strip mall near Jackson. They said the old nail salon is now a food depot. People bring what they can: cans, dried goods, stale bread, and trade with paper notes pinned to the wall. It's not a barter system. It's just messages. This was all I had. Take only what you need. We're not gone yet. Sometimes a jar shows up with no label, just a single word scratched on the lid. Love. Someone's still labeling things with that word. I found an old cassette player in the back closet here. Still works. Been playing scraps of old audio, seeing if anything's usable. One tape just had a child's voice counting upward. No explanation, no name, just counting. It gets all the way to 302 before it stops. I think about that a lot. Why stop at 302? A woman in Springfield said she found a photo album stuck in a drainage pipe. Mostly baby pictures. She dried them out and set them on a wooden plank near her fence, hoping someone would recognize the faces. She said, "We've lost so many names, but we don't have to lose their faces too." She built a wall of them. She calls it the memory line. If you're from Missouri and missing a cousin, a niece, a baby brother, maybe their smile is still pinned there, fluttering in the wind. Someone out of Knoxville's been using an old CB radio to hold story hours. He reads books to no one in particular. Doesn't matter if anyone answers. He just reads. Said he's got The Hobbit almost memorized now. Said it helps him remember how to breathe when the wind presses against the door. A girl in Wyoming left a note in a cereal box and stuck it inside a mailbox shaped like a pig. The message reads, "My mom says we're stronger than we think. I think she is too, but I'm scared anyway." She signed it with a heart and the letter L. You're not the only one scared, L. We all are. It's okay. Someone near Wichita said they saw lights moving in the sky again. Not planes, not drones. Just flickers. Flashlights from someone's roof, maybe. Maybe something else. Maybe hope itself, trying to stay visible. I heard from a nurse in Shreveport. She's treating survivors under a collapsed gas station awning. No supplies left. Just using clean rags and melted snow from the freezers to rinse wounds. She said her hands won't stop shaking, but she won't stop working either. She said, "The sky can scream all it wants. My hands still move." That's the kind of strength this world forgot about. But we're remembering now. There's a train stuck in Nebraska, not moving. No tracks left in front of it. But the conductor's been using the horn every morning at 9 a.m. like clockwork. One long blast. It echoes for miles. People have started calling it the morning bell. I think that's beautiful, even if it's heartbreaking. A man out of Fort Wayne told me he's found 6 people so far wandering fields with no shoes. No idea where they were going. Just walking. Every one of them said they were headed away from the noise. But they weren't sure what noise. Maybe they meant the storm. Maybe they meant the silence. A family near Buffalo has been marking their door with tally marks. 1 for every day the house still stands. 1 for every night no one cries. 1 for every time the flashlight still clicks on. The wood is almost full now. They've started a second door. I hope they need a third. I hope they run out of doors. Tonight the sky is the color of dirty steel. There's a pressure drop so deep it feels like your teeth are vibrating. I've seen birds fall out of the sky when it gets like this. Just drop, like they forgot how to fly. But I won't drop the signal. This is Jordan Hale. 99.3 FM, the last frequency. You're still here. You're still fighting. Even if your fight is just breathing and listening and staying exactly where you are, that's enough. That's everything. The signal keeps dipping. I've rewired the backup battery twice in the last hour. I don't know how long the tower will hold if the winds shift again, but for now, the red light's still on. That means I'm still here, and I know you are too. I heard from a man who's been riding a bicycle across parts of Arkansas, handing out slips of paper with frequencies still working. He carries a milk crate strapped to the back with duct tape and clothespins. He doesn't talk much, just nods, points to the sky, then pedals away again. Someone called him the ghost on two wheels, said he passed through like a rumor you want to believe in. He left behind a note in one shelter. It read, "Don't lose your station. Keep your voice." I haven't. Not yet. There's a woman out in Montana living in what's left of a ranger station. She said it was already remote before everything hit. Now it feels like she's on another planet. But she has a fireplace and a dog named Sparky and a wind-up radio that still picks up this broadcast when the clouds don't chew it up. She said her favorite sound now is static, because it means she hasn't gone completely alone. A kid from outside Tulsa called in with the clearest voice I've heard all week. Said he's been helping his neighbors carry buckets of water from a broken fire hydrant down the road. He doesn't know their names. Just says the woman with the orange coat and the man with the cowboy boots. That's all he needs. He ended the message with, "It's weird how we all live in the same story now." It is, and yet, somehow, every part still feels personal, still feels like a whisper meant just for you. There's a group of survivors in Michigan using traffic cones to spell out SOS on rooftops. Not the letters, just the dots and dashes. They hope someone in the air still knows Morse. They call it speaking in thunder. I like that. Speaking in thunder. Maybe we've all been doing that without knowing. I got a call from a farmer in Kentucky who hasn't slept in 4 days. He's been feeding his livestock by hand, lighting the barn with old birthday candles stuck in jars. He said the cows still follow him like nothing's changed, like the world didn't turn sideways. He said, "When I hum to them, they calm down." Maybe that's what we're all doing, just humming in the dark, hoping someone settles. There's something beautiful in that. I've been getting bursts of signal from downtown St. Louis, not words, just sounds, metal striking metal, heavy wind, sometimes a voice shouting in the distance. I can't tell if it's a distress call or just the city echoing back what's been done to it. Either way, it's still sending something out. Someone scratched a message into the cement at the base of a gas station sign in Georgia. If you can read this, we made it through the first night. Still together. The word together was underlined. A little boy near Reno found an old record player and spun a warped copy of a jazz album until it cracked in half. When his mother asked why he kept playing it even when it skipped, he said, "Because I like the broken parts." We're all learning to live with the broken parts. I got word from a pair of twins walking the back roads of West Virginia with a wooden cart full of water bottles and matches. They knock on doors just to see if someone's still inside. If the house is empty, they leave one bottle and one match on the porch. They said, "One drink, one spark. That's all some people need to keep going." They're right. I haven't heard from the pilot in a while, the one who used to circle above the Midwest. Maybe he ran out of fuel, or maybe he finally found somewhere to land. Either way, I hope he's warm. I hope he found light. Tonight, the sky looks like an open wound. red around the edges, pulsing in the middle. There's a new storm building behind the last one. I can feel it in the walls. I can hear it in the pauses between messages. The power blinked twice just now. That's new. This might be the last clean hour we get. So I'll make it count. This is Jordan Hale. 99.3 FM, the last frequency. If your windows are rattling, if the candles are down to stubs, if you're listening with your back against the wall and your eyes on the ceiling, stay with me. I'm here, and I'm not going quiet. I can hear the thunder rolling in over the hills like it's dragging something with it. It doesn't crash anymore. It growls, long and low, like a voice that forgot how to speak and only knows how to growl now. You don't just hear it. You feel it in your spine. Earlier, I stepped outside the station for 2 minutes, just to feel the air. I don't know why. Maybe just to remind myself that I'm still part of the same world the rest of you are walking through. The sky looked bruised. The clouds moved like oil. And in that 2 minutes, I saw 3 things. A power line folded like a paperclip, a stuffed animal tied to a fence post, and a man sitting in the middle of the road, facing away from everything. He didn't turn when I called out, didn't even flinch. Maybe he was listening. Maybe he just needed silence. I got a call from someone near Omaha. Said she's using her grandma's old hair salon as a shelter. The mirrors all cracked, but she kept them anyway. Said the broken glass makes the candles look like stars. Her kids fall asleep watching the reflections. She said, if they think the sky is in the walls, maybe they'll dream softer. That broke me in the best way. There's a neighborhood near Chattanooga that's gone completely underground, literally. They've opened up storm drains and basements, connecting tunnels with rope and string. Someone chalked arrows at every junction. They call it the thread. One of them radioed in tonight, said, we're just mice in the walls now. But at least the wind can't find us. I hope the thread holds. A message came in from a motel off Interstate 40 in Tennessee. No roof, but the sign still lights up. Someone spray painted over the words, low weekly rates, and wrote, all welcome, no questions. That's the new hospitality. Inside, people are sleeping on box springs and towels. The vending machine is empty, except for a roll of mints. The coffee pot still works when they crank the battery rig. One woman makes a pot every morning, not because anyone needs the caffeine, just because the smell reminds her of mornings before. We take what we can get now. Someone in Montana painted a giant arrow on the side of a mountain using tar and leftover white paint. No message, no explanation, just a single arrow pointing toward the next ridge. I think about how many of us are following arrows we don't understand, just moving towards something that feels more like safety than what we left behind. A father in Oklahoma has been singing lullabies into a baby monitor every night. His son was taken in by neighbors during the first storm surge, and they haven't been able to find each other since. But he knows which frequency the baby monitor runs on. So every night at 7 p.m., he sings one song. Same one. Every time. He said, maybe it doesn't matter if he hears it. Maybe what matters is that I still sing. That might be the clearest truth I've heard in days. A church basement in Missouri has become a meeting place. No sermons, no services. Just people bringing their stories and setting them down like bricks. One man reads them aloud at sunset. Sometimes it's just 5 people, sometimes 30, but always someone. He called in tonight and said, We've stopped trying to make sense of anything. We just hold each other's stories until they stop shaking. I think that's what I'm trying to do here too. There's a house on the edge of Dayton with paper lanterns hanging in what used to be a front yard. They're all different colors. Someone strung them up with fishing wire and clothespins. They don't light up. There's no power. But they move in the wind, and that movement catches your eye. A girl standing there wrote one thing on the driveway in chalk. Please notice me. We do. I do. Tonight, the wind is back, not constant but sharp, like it's thinking, pausing, choosing. I've stopped expecting rhythm. I just brace when it hits. The backup generator flickered once about an hour ago. If this station goes dark, I'll switch to the hand crank. The signal will get quieter, might buzz more, but it'll still be there. So will I. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. If the storm is circling you again, if you're watching your walls tremble and wondering how much longer you can hold, just know this. You are not the only one. You are not forgotten. We're still breathing through each other. We just lost the Eastern Tower. That's not a metaphor. I heard the metal scream through the floor. That's the last repeater that gave us reach into the Carolinas. It's gone. I saw the red light on the console go dark like someone pinched the wire shut. But I'm still here. The station's still on, for now. If you're in the East and this fades, if you're getting nothing but static and flickers and ghosts in your receiver, I'm sorry. I tried to hold it longer. Someone outside of Cincinnati just sent in a message using a shortwave burst. It was just coordinates and a sentence. We have children. Please don't stop talking. I won't. Even if the wind chews this place down to the bones, I'll keep the mic open as long as I can, as long as my breath holds. I got a call from a girl named Talia, somewhere in the remains of Memphis. Her voice shook, but it was steady. She said her father used to be a meteorologist, back when forecasts were still something you could rely on. He'd tell her how to read clouds, how to track shifts in pressure with nothing but her ears and her feet. She said, "He told me once, the sky will always warn you, but it won't wait for you." That feels too true now. Talia says she sleeps in a museum basement, under broken statues and waterlogged gift shop posters, but she still plays a wind chime every night outside the door. Said it reminds her that air still moves, that the world still breathes, even if it breathes heavy. A man near Kansas City built a tunnel out of hay bales and trash bags. Says it doesn't keep the cold out, but it muffles the sound. He painted the words, "No surrender," in white on the side. It's crooked, jagged, too big for the space. But you can see it from the road. There's a boy in Erie who carved a message into a driftwood board and floated it into the floodwater. The note reads, "If you find this, write back. I'll be waiting near the yellow car." That's all it says. Sometimes I think this entire country is writing love letters to ghosts, hoping someone, somewhere, will write back. There's a man who's been sleeping in an abandoned movie theater with a dog named Clem. The screens are torn, the seats are soaked, but the acoustics still hold. So he plays recordings of old shows on a loop, not because he wants to watch them, but because he wants the dog to hear familiar voices. He said, "I want Clem to think the world is still normal." Somewhere north of Chicago, a group is living out of a music store. Guitars hanging like bones, dust on every string. They can't play most of them anymore. but they tune one each morning and take turns strumming open chords into the street. They said, "As long as we can make a note ring out, we're not done." I believe them. The second storm line is forming. I don't need radar to know that. I feel it in my throat, like pressures building just behind my teeth, like the air's been pressed flat by something too wide to see. They're calling it the pulse. That's what the last report said before the National Weather Service went quiet for good. Just 3 words. Second pulse forming. No path, no estimates, no charts. Just a warning in the dark. I wonder how many of you still have enough power to hear this. How many are gathered around cracked radios or curled in tents with wires snaked to batteries? How many are just listening because the silence is worse? If you're here, if you're still catching this, I want to tell you something plain. You are not invisible, even if no one comes. Even if the roads stay broken and the sky stays mad. Even if every door you knock on stays shut and every path you take turns into more wind. You are seen. I see you. And I'm still with you. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. Even if the towers fall, even if the antenna bends and the signal drifts, I'll keep talking. I'll keep talking until the storm forgets my name. The sky just dropped another funnel in southern Illinois. No warning. No sound until it was already scraping across the treetops like a giant hand. One of the relay towers down there went silent 5 minutes ago. I've been watching the lights on the board go out one by one, like someone is blowing out candles in every corner of the map. There's barely anything left on this side of the storm. And what is still standing? It's not standing still. I'm looking at the horizon now. The clouds aren't moving. They're folding, like pages of a book being turned too fast to read. There's a kind of flicker in the sky that doesn't come from lightning. It's something else, something quiet and mean. Earlier today, someone sent me a message carved into a steel lunchbox. They must have used a nail or a chisel. It says, "We tied ourselves together with shoelaces so we wouldn't blow away." That's what people are doing out there, building strength out of whatever they can hold in their hands. There's a boy on the edge of Detroit who made a kite out of a trash bag and a broken car antenna. He tied it to a belt and ran with it until the wind lifted it out of sight. He said, "If the sky has to take something, let it take that." He's not wrong. A woman near Peoria sent in a recording of her daughter singing in the dark. It's not a song I know. She said it's something the girl made up after the roof came off their house. All she sings is, "Stay here, stay here, stay here with me." That's the chorus. Over and over. I think a lot of us are singing that song without realizing it. People in Ohio have started painting signs on the sides of buildings that haven't collapsed yet. Simple things. Still here? Come in. Safe food. No flood. They say the paint only lasts a day before the rain peels it off. But they paint them anyway. Every morning. Even if the building fell overnight, they paint the sign on whatever rubble's left. Someone in West Virginia turned a church bell into a warning system. They've rigged it to swing when the wind crosses a certain threshold. If the bell rings, it means get below ground. One man called in and said, "It's the only voice we still trust." I've been holding on to that line, letting it echo in my head. Maybe that's all I'm doing here. Trying to be a voice someone can trust when the air goes still and the sky starts pointing again. I found a Polaroid picture stuffed in the crack of the station door. No note, just an image. 4 people standing in front of a fire pit, holding hands, all of them wearing raincoats, all of them looking up at something we can't see. I don't know who they are, but I've kept a photo on the wall beside the mic. A family in Little Rock is still camping on their roof, not because it's safe, but because it's the only place the water hasn't touched. They use mirrors to send signals to nearby buildings. Flash once for yes, twice for help. They haven't flashed help in a while. I hope that means something good. A man in a laundromat in Indiana set up a speaker system using dryer tubes and copper wire. He calls it the Whisper Line. He reads bedtime stories every night at 8. Doesn't care who's listening. He just reads. He told me. The dryers never stopped spinning in my head, so I had to make something else turn. The people we've become in this storm, they're not new. They were always there, just quieter. The lights blinked again. That means the second surge is nearly here. That means the pulse is about to crack down over what's left. I don't know what will come after. I don't know if this station will keep standing, but I know one thing. I will not stop this broadcast, even if the static wins, even if the wires burn, even if I have to scream over the wind until my voice is nothing but a rasp bouncing off the walls. This is Jordan Hale. This is 99.3 FM. This is the last frequency. If you can hear me, you are not alone. You're never alone, not as long as this voice carries. It's past midnight, or it was. I don't know anymore. The clock on the wall froze sometime during the last tremor, stuck at 12:03, the second hand twitching like it wants to move but can't. Maybe that's all of us now, stuck somewhere between what just happened and what's about to. The wind has a new sound tonight. It whistles, but not from the trees. It's coming from the broken edges of this building. Cracks in the brick, snapped gutters, seams in the vents. It makes the station sound like it's breathing. Sometimes it gasps, sometimes it hums. There's a hum in my head now too. I think it's from the generator, or maybe just from being awake too long. I got a short message from somewhere outside Toledo. Just a voice, quiet and steady, saying, "We've buried our dead. We're still cooking rice. That's enough for now." Yes, it is. Someone taped a piece of paper to the side of a mailbox in northern Mississippi. It says, "If you need a blanket, take the one from the porch. If you need a song, hum one and we'll answer." That porch is gone now, washed out 2 days ago, but I bet the song is still echoing. There's a boy in western Pennsylvania who built a tiny tower out of broken fence posts. On top, he nailed a frying pan. Every morning, he climbs up and hits it once with a spoon. Said he wants people far away to know somebody still counts mornings. He's 12. We're getting fragments from the old FEMA band, mostly static, but once in a while, a number sequence. No words, no voices, just numbers. Someone somewhere is still typing, still entering something into a system they hope is listening. There's a girl named Macy calling from the edge of what used to be Birmingham. She has a dog named Momo. She says Momo barks at the sky right before the clouds shift. Says he hasn't been wrong once. She doesn't trust the wind anymore, but she trusts the dog. She also said, "I don't think God left. I just think he started whispering." That stuck with me. Someone north of Nashville left a diary page taped to a can of beans and dropped it on a doorstep. The page says, I talk to the wind now. It doesn't answer, but it listens better than most people ever did. There's a shelter under the collapsed frame of a daycare in Omaha. They carved little hearts into the wooden beams, one for every name they remember. There are almost 50 now. Some have no names written inside, just question marks. A girl in a makeshift camp near Lubbock told me she found a broken car mirror, and now she uses it to signal airplanes. She said she hasn't seen a plane in days, but she keeps signaling anyway. Said it's not about being seen. It's about remembering what it feels like to hope for light. I've kept that one taped to the console here, right next to the photo I mentioned earlier, the one with the raincoats and the fire pit. I look at it when the signal gets rough. Tonight, the pulse has started to creep eastward. The wall of wind is bending toward the Great Lakes now. And behind it? I don't know. The air feels hollow, like something got sucked out of it. Some of the frequencies we used to share are just gone now. Not jammed, not damaged, just gone. Like the signal never existed at all. Like the storm is erasing more than houses. I heard from someone in Detroit who strung Christmas lights across an entire street. Power be damned. Just wire and bulbs like they were drawing a line across the dark. They said, if the sky comes for us, it'll see we're still trying to be beautiful. They're right. Even under clouds that look like bruises, even while the soil shakes and the trees lean the wrong way, we're still trying. This is Jordan Hale. 99.3 FM, the last frequency. If you're hearing this, you're already stronger than you think. And if you're not, if the signal's cut, and the only thing left is silence, just know this. I said your name into the static, and it didn't disappear. The rain is sideways again. It taps the glass like it's trying to speak in code. Like if I just knew the rhythm, I'd understand what it's trying to say. Maybe it's warning me. Maybe it's just knocking to remind me it's still there. That it's always been there, waiting to come in. I've stopped checking the weather reports. Not that there are any left. But even if there were, they'd be lies now. This isn't weather anymore. This is something older. Something that remembers a time before maps and forecasts and numbered scales. This is nature clearing its throat. Someone in Kentucky is building scarecrows out of old road signs and telephone cables. Not to scare off birds. There aren't any birds left. He just says, if the wind sees a face, maybe it'll blink before it hits us. There's a boy outside Montgomery who's been keeping a journal in chalk. Every morning he writes a new page on the driveway. It lasts until the rain comes. Then he writes another one. One line from last week read, "My sister said the sky used to be blue. I believe her, but I've only seen gray." We have kids growing up who think silence is normal, who think static is just how voices sound. A woman near Tulsa left behind an answering machine with one message. She set it on a box in front of her trailer and wrote, "Press play if you're lonely." Someone played it. Then they left their own recording. It's a chain now. Last I heard, there were 7 voices on that tape. All strangers. All saying things they never had time to say before. That's how people are talking now, through loops and echoes and whatever still plays. There's a kid named Elijah who's been digging holes in the ground, filling them with clean water, and writing "Drink Me" on rocks beside them. No idea who he is or where he learned to do that. But someone radioed in and said one of those pits saved their life after the last funnel cut off the main road. So if you find a hole in the earth with a rock beside it, thank Elijah. A woman in a diner outside Knoxville kept her jukebox powered with a solar panel she built from broken calculators. It only works when the clouds break, which is almost never. But when it does, she plays one song, "Stand By Me," over and over. She doesn't charge anyone for it. She says, the song's free. So is the shelter. So is the soup. Another shelter in what used to be a high school locker room wrote their rules on the wall in red marker. Rule 1. If you find food, share it. Rule 2. If you find light, share it. Rule 3. If you find a voice, don't let it go quiet. Someone in Indiana used flashlight beams to spell out their last name on the side of a grain silo, over and over, like they were trying to prove they existed. The name was Lowry. If anyone out there knows a Lowry, they're still here, still writing, still hoping. Tonight, the power flickered again, not here, but somewhere out there. I saw it from the window, one sharp flash in the hills, like someone turned on the sun for half a second and then thought better of it. I've been collecting pieces of people, not their names, not their voices, but the pieces they leave behind. Quotes on napkins, broken phone recordings, scratched-in numbers, chalk marks on wood, knots tied in tree branches. It's not a database. It's not a log. It's something quieter. I call it the echo book. It's not real, just in my head. But every time I read you back one of these voices, I write it there. I picture it on a shelf, somewhere where the wind can't reach. Someone on the edge of Des Moines tied together 40 empty water bottles and floated across a parking lot on them like a raft. They said it wasn't about getting anywhere. They just wanted to feel what it was like to float again, to stop walking, to stop dragging the storm with them for 5 minutes. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. And I know you're tired. I know your walls are thin and your breath is shallow and the days have stopped having names. But you're still here. You're still in the book. You're still echoing. There's something strange about silence after a storm. You'd think it would feel like peace, like relief, but it doesn't. It feels like something holding its breath, waiting, testing how long we'll stay quiet before we break. The quiet right now is worse than the wind. Somewhere in the dark, I know it's building again. I got a message carved into the side of a mailbox flag, the kind that flips up when mail's inside. It says, "My house is gone, but I still check the mail." I don't know why. Habit, maybe, or hope. I hope someone sends her something, even if it's just a name. A man west of Charlotte has been digging trenches around his neighborhood using an old shovel and a snowplow he tied to the back of a four-wheeler. Not for water, not for defense. He said, "It makes the houses feel like they still matter, like someone drew a line to say this is still home." I heard from a teacher in Kansas who's been rewriting school lessons on scraps of cardboard and mailing them to random shelters. She said, "If we don't keep teaching, the storm takes everything." One of her cards reached a girl in a barn outside Topeka. The card said, "Describe what wind feels like." The girl answered, "It feels like the sky breathing too hard, like it's sad and doesn't know what to do with itself." That answer is better than anything I could write. Someone tied wind chimes to every tree on a street in New Jersey. They're not tuned right. They clatter more than they sing, but they make noise. And sometimes, that's the point. One woman passing through called them the broken bells of whatever's left. There's a man outside of Lincoln who's painted a single black line along every road he walks. Just a paintbrush and a can of leftover house paint. He says the line reminds him where he's already been, where it was still safe to walk. But he also says he paints it because if I stop leaving a trail, it means I've stopped wanting to come back. I think a lot of people are painting invisible lines like that now. With footsteps, with memory, with breath. There's a kid named Ramon who sends voice notes through an old radio his dad modified. Each one starts the same way. "Hi, it's me. I'm still here. Are you?" He doesn't wait for replies. He just sends one every morning. "If you're out there, Ramon, I heard you." We all did. Someone wrote the word "stay" in the ash on the side of a burned-out delivery truck near Baton Rouge. Big white letters, smudged and shaking. It's not clear who it was meant for. Maybe anyone passing by. Maybe just themselves. A woman in Wyoming carved tally marks into a wind turbine. One for each time the wind made her cry. One for each time she stood up anyway. She ran out of room 2 days ago. She's carving on the next one now. I've been getting flashes of signal from Montana, like someone hitting a mic and letting it drop, thumps and scratches and breath. It's not words, not yet, but it's not random either. It's a rhythm. Someone's still trying to speak. Someone's still in the storm with us. This place, this little station with its cracked window and buzzing lights and coffee that tastes like melted copper. It wasn't built for this, but it's lasted longer than almost anything else. Because voices don't weigh much. They don't need fuel. They don't need permission. They just need a crack in the static. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. I'm still here, still holding the line, still making room for one more voice. And if you're listening, if you've got anything left, even a whisper, send it. The storm hasn't taken everything yet. Something changed in the air. It's not just the cold, though that's back too. It's thicker now. Like you could reach out and grab a handful of it. The kind of cold that doesn't need ice or snow to hurt you. It just seeps in through your ribs and waits. I stepped outside again, just for a second. The wind wasn't loud, but it was watching. I swear I could feel it watching. I heard from someone south of Minneapolis who set up mirrors all around what's left of their front porch. They said when the clouds part, even just a little, the mirrors catch the light and scatter it like glitter over the lawn. They said, if we can't have a sunrise, I'll make one out of glass. There's a boy in Missouri who found a busted saxophone in the mud and cleaned it with a toothbrush. He doesn't know how to play, but he blows into it every morning anyway, just to hear something that isn't crying or wind or wood breaking in half. His mom said the sound makes their dog wag its tail. That's all the reason he needs. A man in Utah took every glass bottle from the ruins of a local bar and hung them from a tree using shoelaces and wire. When the storm came back, they rattled and clinked like a nervous orchestra. He said, I wanted it to hear us. There's an old couple just west of Columbus who kept their wedding rings in a mason jar on the windowsill during the worst part of the last surge. They said, we thought if the house blew away, the rings should get the best seat. The house didn't blow away, but the jar cracked. One ring was missing when they checked. They found it buried in the floorboards later that night, still warm somehow. I've stopped asking why things like that happen. I just collect them. I let them live here with me, in the space between stories. Someone north of New Orleans is building a raft. Not to escape, they said, just in case the water wants to talk again. They carved the words, try me, into the side, A girl in Arkansas keeps pressing her hands into wet clay and letting it dry. She lines the hardened pieces up along a road that barely exists anymore. When asked why, she said, "So the storm knows who it missed." That's the kind of thinking we live with now. There's a man in a hollowed-out church in Georgia who writes names on the backs of old hymnals, not names he knows, just names that feel like they should exist. He stacks them carefully in rows, like pews made of memory. When someone arrives, he gives them a hymnal with their name on it, even if it's not their real name. He says people still need to be called something. I think he's right. Last night, I heard a voice through the static that didn't sound tired. That's rare. It was a girl from the edge of Chicago, calling from a basement with 6 strangers. She said they've been sleeping in shifts, sharing shoes, and learning to braid each other's hair just to pass the time. She said, "We've decided to remember each other, even if this ends here." That hit me harder than the sirens. Someone in Oregon is growing tomatoes under a skylight with tinfoil and rainwater. They've named each plant after a person they used to know. The smallest one is called Beth. The tallest is Marcus. They said, "Marcus keeps leaning toward the window like he knows something I don't." I believe he does. There's a boy in Texas who lit a fire with a single match and guarded it for 3 days. Not because he needed warmth, but because he said, "I promised my sister I'd make a light she could see." The light's still burning. I can feel the next wall of wind pressing against us now. It hasn't broken through, but it's testing the edges. You can hear it if you stop everything and listen close. It clicks. It breathes. It waits. This is Jordan Hale. 99.3 FM, the last frequency. The sky doesn't speak in sentences. It speaks in pressure, in groans, in warnings scratched across fields and fences and power lines. But we still speak in stories, and we are not out of them yet. I just heard something I can't explain. Not the storm. That's easy enough to name now. Wind, metal, glass, screaming sky. We've learned the notes by heart. But this? It sounded like the ground shifting underneath itself. Not an earthquake, not a collapse. More like a sigh, a deep one. From the bones of the earth. Like the country, exhaling. I stood real still for a while. Let the air settle. Listened to the power lines sing. Then I came back in here, turned on this mic, and sat down. Because that's what I do. Someone in North Dakota wrote "Mom" in giant letters across a flooded highway using flour. Said it was the only white powder they had left that could still show up against the mud. They haven't seen their mother in weeks. Don't even know if she's alive. But they figured if someone flew overhead, they'd see the word and know it still mattered. It does. There's a kid in Boise who keeps rewinding an old camcorder, watching the same 5 seconds of footage over and over. It's not of the storm. It's just his dog running through a sprinkler. Nothing happens. No music. No talking. Just joy. He said, "If I can remember that, I can survive this." A woman near Macon turned the back of her car into a library. Not a big one, just a milk crate full of books, a plastic sheet to keep out the rain, and a note taped to the bumper that reads, "Take one, leave one, or just sit here and breathe." I hope someone reads to her too. A man in South Dakota painted a mural across the side of a barn. Not of the storm, not of survivors, just one image, a hand holding another hand. He said that's what mattered, not who the hands belonged to, just that they were reaching. There's a child named Anna in Southern Virginia who's been collecting feathers. Not bird feathers. Those are rare now. She pulls insulation from broken rooftops, trims it, and tapes it to sticks. She said, "If I can't have wings, I can make pretend ones for when the wind comes back." She sleeps with them taped to her arms. In downtown Louisville, what's left of a fountain is still running. Barely. The water is brown and slow, but someone cleaned off the edge and left a paper cup and a message that says, "Still clean if you pray first." I don't know if that's true, but the hope behind it is clean enough. Someone called in just to say, "Tell my daughter I washed her shoes. They're dry now." That's all they said. Then they hung up. And I sat here staring at the light on the console, thinking about that one simple act. Washing shoes, drying them. Maybe because it's the only thing left to do. Maybe because some part of them believed, really believed, that she'd be back for them. There's a man on the outskirts of Cleveland using an old telescope as a lookout. Not for stars, not anymore. He points it at the horizon, tracks dust, measures the angle of trees bending, says it helps him feel like the world still follows some kind of rule. Even broken clocks tick. I heard from a group of strangers who found each other in a collapsed parking garage. They sleep in a circle, head to foot, share socks, pass around the same 3 jokes every night, like they're heirlooms. One of them said, "We don't talk about the storm anymore, just about who we used to be, who we might be again." That part's important. Because even if the storm takes the roofs, even if it claws at the corners and knocks the doors loose, it doesn't get to keep the words. It doesn't get the last sentence. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM. The last frequency. If you're holding your breath, you're not alone. If you're looking out a window that doesn't show stars anymore, just know we're still out here, still moving, still marking mornings, even if the sun forgets how to rise. I got a knock on the door earlier. Not the storm, not wind, not collapse. A real knock. The kind you forget how much you miss until you hear it again. It was a boy, maybe 16, face smudged with ash, hands full of wires. He didn't say much. Just handed me a can of peaches and a folded piece of paper. Then he turned and walked back into the dark. I opened the note after he left. It said, "You kept me company when my brother didn't wake up. Here's something sweet for your voice. I haven't cried in a few days. That changed tonight. I saved the peaches. Haven't opened them yet. I just like seeing them sit there. Something sealed, something untouched, something that waited for a better moment." A woman in Nebraska wrote the entire alphabet on a tarp using shoe polish, hung it on the side of a barn, said her daughter sings the letters every morning just to prove the day has started. They call it their wind school. There's a group in central Arkansas who set up a fire pit with bricks from 6 different towns. Each brick has a name scratched into it, either someone they lost or someone they're still hoping to find. They say when the fire's going strong, it smells like memory. I got a transmission from someone living in a car parked on a hill just north of Pittsburgh. Said they tuned in because the horn stopped working and they needed to hear something that still could. That's the world now. Radios replacing engines, static instead of speed. A girl named Kiara sent a voice message recorded into a cassette. She tied it to a balloon and let it go. Someone found it miles away and played it for me. Her message? Just 1 sentence. I don't think I'm brave, but I stayed. You are, Kiara. You are. There's a boy somewhere in Alabama who draws clocks on the wall every day. Not real ones, just sketches. He writes different times inside each one, sometimes in the future, sometimes in the past. He said, if I run out of minutes, maybe the storm will too. Someone in St. Louis hung plastic bags filled with water from tree limbs and tied bells to the bottoms. They say the reflection scares off whatever's hiding in the dark, and the bells remind you you're not alone. I believe both. There's a man who's been broadcasting from the top of a parking tower in Omaha. His signal barely gets out, mostly buzz, but every night at the same time, he plays the sound of waves crashing on a beach. He loops it for 15 minutes, then silence. He said, I don't want people to forget the ocean. I won't. Someone west of Nashville built a sundial from scrap metal and bottle caps. It doesn't work, not really. The sun's too hidden. But they sit beside it every morning anyway, just in case. They said, I'm not measuring time. I'm reminding the sky it still has a job. I've been thinking about that a lot. About what jobs we've all taken on since this storm began. Some are small, some invisible, some so heavy they pull at the soul. But they're jobs worth doing. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. And tonight, that job is this: to tell you that someone knocked on my door with a can of peaches and a thank you note, to remind you that even when the world forgets how to knock, someone out there still remembers. We're still passing messages, still marking time, still leaving light on the windowsill. There's a hum coming from the generator again, not the usual kind. This one's softer, like it's thinking, like it knows it's the last thing keeping my voice from slipping into the wind. I keep a hand on it sometimes, just resting there, not fixing anything, just making contact. It helps somehow. A man just radioed in from the top of a hardware store, said he's sleeping under a row of upside-down shopping carts chained together, said the metal creaks when the wind shifts, and that creak tells him whether he should run or wait. He ended the call by saying, "My name's Darren. Don't let the storm erase me." We won't, Darren. There's a group of kids near Shreveport who built a playground out of broken furniture and storm shutters. It's not safe, but they play there anyway. They take turns pretending it's recess. They pass around a pencil stub and write stories in the dirt. One of them wrote, "Once upon a time, the wind didn't know our names." Someone in Montana has been baking bread in an old metal filing cabinet. Said it only works when the air is just dry enough. Said the smell travels down the hill and people follow it like they're chasing a memory. One man walked 3 miles barefoot for a slice. He said, "I don't even like bread, but I needed something warm." A woman named Lucia stitched a quilt out of raincoats and trash bags and left it on the hood of a flooded truck. She pinned a note that said, "For whoever froze last night, try not to tonight." I heard she's made 8 of them so far. Never met the people who took them. Just keeps sewing, keeps pinning. Someone near Tulsa carved names into driftwood and launched them into the floodwaters like tiny boats. They didn't explain why, just said, "It feels wrong not to send something off." A boy in Georgia buried a time capsule with drawings of every person he could remember from school. Said he didn't want to forget their faces, even if the buildings never come back. He left a note inside. "Please dig this up when the sky is kind again. There's a girl near Lexington who wears a crown made of tin can lids and string. Says she's queen of the last backyard. She hosts dinner parties with her stuffed animals and sings songs in the dark. Her mother says it's how she's holding on. I say it's how she's teaching us all to. I keep hearing little stories like that, flecks of gold in all this gray, not because people are winning exactly, but because they haven't stopped fighting for pieces of light. A man outside Kansas City set up a tent in a field with a sign that says, "Confessions welcome." He doesn't ask names, just listens. One woman told him she lied about having a flashlight. Another said she stole batteries from a neighbor's garage. He tells them, if you're still breathing, you've got time to do better. I think that's enough. I think that might be everything. The rain hasn't stopped. It comes in sheets now, the kind that make it hard to see even your own hands. But I still see this console. I still see the mic. And I still see the light flickering whenever a voice comes through. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. If you've got a crown made of scrap, if you've baked bread in a filing cabinet, if you've played tag on broken beams or drawn clocks that don't tick anymore, you're still writing the story. You're still inside it. And I'm still here to read it back. It's almost quiet again. Not the peaceful kind. The kind where everything goes still right before the sky decides to scream. You can feel it in your teeth, in your fingernails, in the air behind your eyes, like the world's waiting for its next breath, and we're stuck in the pause. I keep my hand on the mic. I breathe slow. I talk when I can. Someone out in western Kansas dragged an old, upright piano into a church parking lot. It doesn't have all its keys. Some are cracked. Some are gone. But every night, around the same time, a girl plays what she remembers from childhood. No sheet music, just her hands and what they remember. She said, "The song isn't for me. It's for the night. I want it to know we're not afraid of it." I heard from a man camping in an empty water tower. Said he shouts into the walls once a day just to hear his voice bounce back. Not to feel big. Just to make sure something is still answering. There's a child named Nico in Alabama who made a chessboard out of tile scraps and buttons. He doesn't know how to play, not really. But he moves the pieces every day, trying to figure it out. He said, "I think the Queen's supposed to protect people." That line just about broke me. There's a woman up in Michigan who cuts paper flowers from old newspapers, glues them to her windows with candle wax. She says when the wind hits just right, they flutter like real ones. Said she used to grow sunflowers. Now she grows memory. Someone sent me a recording of a man walking through a library. Just the sound of his boots echoing between ruined shelves. No talking. No footsteps but his. But every now and then, he stops, and you hear a page turn. That's all. And somehow, that sound, the page turning, it felt louder than thunder. A girl in Oklahoma buried a box of old letters in her backyard. Letters she wrote to herself, some from when she was 8, some from last week. She said, "I don't want the storm to think I forgot who I used to be." You didn't forget. And now we won't either. There's a boy near San Antonio who set up a string of bottle caps on fishing line, stretched between 2 poles. When the wind moves through, it makes a sound like a snake laughing. He says it keeps the storm guessing. Says the wind doesn't like things it can't understand. There's a man on the outskirts of Columbus who found an old windmill blade buried in mud. He cleaned it, painted words on it in chalk. Each day, a different phrase. Today's said, "Somebody somewhere still remembers your name." I hope that's true. I believe it is. Someone in Colorado started building a spiral out of broken bricks in the middle of an empty road. No plan, No reason, just walking in circles, laying pieces down, a shape in the silence, a message with no language, but you can feel it. The spiral says, I'm still here. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. And tonight, I want to say this out loud. Not for me, not even for the storm, but for you. You matter. If you're braiding thread to remember a color, if you're boiling rainwater in a coffee tin, if you're listening to a static voice from miles away because it's the only one still talking, you're part of something. You're writing it with every breath you take, and I'm still listening. The rain is back, harder this time. It's not falling so much as crashing, like it forgot how to land gently. It pounds the roof above my head like it's mad at me for still being here. Like the sky keeps sending messengers, and I won't open the door. But the door stays shut. The mic stays on. I heard from a man who's been walking the same road every day for a week. He said he doesn't know where it leads, and he doesn't care. He walks it because it's still there, because it hasn't crumbled or flooded or vanished. He said, I figure if the road hasn't given up, maybe I shouldn't either. Someone in Mississippi hung string lights from the shell of their porch, powered by a single car battery. They said they don't need the light to see. They need it so the dark doesn't win without a fight. That's what most of this feels like now. Not winning. Just not letting the dark take everything. A boy in Missouri paints stars on the walls of the shelter he's staying in. White dots, yellow dots, silver where he can find it. Said he's trying to remember what it looked like when the sky was clean. He calls it his ceiling map. A girl in West Virginia found a cassette player and a stack of old tapes. She plays them every night at low volume. Says the music doesn't make the wind quieter, but it makes the quiet feel less alone. Her favorite is a tape labeled Sunday Mix 1991. She said, I wasn't born yet, but I think I remember it anyway. There's a man in Florida who's been collecting mirrors. Cracked, dirty, rain-streaked. He lines them up along the edge of the highway. When the clouds shift, even just a little, the light jumps between them like it's trying to escape. He calls it his sky ladder. He said, if light wants to leave, I'll give it a way out. I got a message scratched into the side of a metal sign near Little Rock. Just one word. Wait. No explanation. No arrow. Just that word. But someone found it and stood there for a while. Just stood. And when they left, they carved the same word on the next sign down the road. Now there are 3 of them. Someone out in Nebraska wrote a prayer on the back of a cereal box and nailed it to a power pole. It didn't ask for safety. It didn't ask for rescue. Just said, please let someone hear me. I did. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. And I want you to know that the voice you're hearing right now, it's tired, it's raw, but it's still real. We're not here because we're strong. We're here because we kept choosing not to leave the mic, not to walk away, not to fall all the way down. Every word you send, every note you tuck into wood or wire or whispered air, it matters. If you're the only one left in your town, in your shelter, in your car, you're not the only one left. You're still being heard.